so that you can learn a little bit more about Environment for the Americas in case you're new to us. So again, welcome. And Environment for the Americas, a nonprofit organization, works on protecting, connecting, and inspiring. And we are committed to connecting diverse audiences to nature and bird conservation. Environment for the America leads global partnerships. We partner with, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, American Bird Conservancy. We're doing some things with Wisconsin Society for Ornithology. And the goal is protecting migratory species and their habitats across international borders. Our programs nurture the next generation of conservationists, and we do this through outreach, education, and meaningful opportunities. One of the things that I think is kind of a cornerstone of Environment for the Americas is World Migratory Bird Day. So we work collaboratively with other organizations to put on World Migratory Bird Day across the world, and so many people are engaged in this effort. So Environment for the Americas is the home of World Migratory Bird Day, and this annual, it's an annual awareness raising initiative that highlights the need for conservation of migratory birds and the need for their habitat. Its global reach definitely gives an opportunity for action and inspiration to conserve birds and their environment through education, public engagement, activities, and engagement across those borders. You can go to our website to learn more about in the World Migratory Bird Day, and we hope that you'll join us at our next event. We have a map that shows where all the events are happening across the globe. Some of the things that we do to continue that theme of protecting and connecting and inspiring are our internship programs. And those internship programs are very specifically meant to empower underrepresented early career professionals. So our partnerships are with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Forest Service, National Park Service, Bureau of Land Management, many chapters like the Audubon Society chapters, and organizations like the one that I represent. So those natural resource agencies and organizations participating in these internship programs offer hands-on experience and mentorship, and that helps to equip those generations of people with the skills and the connections that they need to be able to be the stewards and to be able to have conservation careers in our world, which is so needed, especially these days. And so there are many ways that you can support our work. So, and I've just given you just a little glimpse of what we do. There's so much more, but there are ways that you can become involved or become a member, donate a happy kit. And so your organization or your school or your workplace could purchase a happy kit, and it's sent to educators in Latin America to help them. You can donate toward binoculars, which are used in some of the field work that we do, as well as some of the educational work. You can donate airline miles to send to the interns so that they can travel as needed. And you can also go shopping. And so when you go shopping, I'm going to go forward a little bit. When you go shopping, you can, sorry, I'm going to go back and forth, not to make you dizzy, but when you go shopping, you can support us. And so who doesn't want to go shopping, and who doesn't want to benefit this organization with the cool things that are happening? And I'm going to hope that I can go back. There we go. All right. So we have some fun things going on. So we have our duck race for conservation, and this supports migratory birds and their habitats across the Americas. So you can donate for a duck, and you can put a duck in the race. You can donate for 2 ducks and get a t-shirt, or you can donate for 5 ducks and get a t-shirt, and you can win a pair of Vortex binoculars. So lots of cool, fun ways for you to be able to contribute to conservation. There are so many things about this happy kit that are just really fun, and all of these tools are available on our website. So when you do go shopping, you can purchase these materials for your own schools or organizations, and I use them at the booths that we do in our community. So a lot of fun to be able to have these kinds of tools available. And the Happy Kit makes a lot of people happy. So as I said, you can go shopping. It's that time of year. And I want to let you know of some things that are happening with our Bird Book Club. So our Bird Book Club is going to move to the second Thursday of the month. So that's going to be a little different than before. Everything else pretty much stays the same, except now you can register for all 2026 dates at one time, and then we'll send out reminders. And we have a lot of cool authors coming up. I'm particularly interested in February, where Matt Ridley is going to talk about birds, sex, and beauty. So who doesn't want to know a little bit more about that? So a lot of fun things. But tonight, we have the pleasure of having Becca Rowland. She's also known as the girl in white glasses. And so we're gonna talk a little bit more about that. So she's an artist and a writer in Nova Scotia, and she is in Canada. And so her fascination began with birds because of her mom's love of birds. And she's traveled to all 7 continents and lived in 4 of them. And she draws her inspiration from an incredible diversity of birds that she's encountered around the world. And I'm so super excited to talk about bird talk. I do want to let folks know that, again, a reminder, we are recording this. And I want to make sure that you know that Lauren is, while she's behind the scenes, she actively helps gather the artists and the authors and folks that we talk to. And she's going to be our master of ceremonies in making sure that everything moves swiftly behind the scenes. So if you have technical issues, you might just send her a message. Otherwise, what I'd love for you to do is to put your questions or your thoughts and things into the chat. Let me know if you would like to come on camera, and you're welcome to turn your camera on at any point. Let me know if you want to come on camera and ask your question, or let me know if you prefer for me to ask it. So welcome, everybody. It's so good to see familiar faces. Love that you're all here. Feel free to turn on your camera if you want. And Becca, I am going to turn it over to you. Welcome to Environment for the Americas Bird Book Club.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here. So I'll probably start by giving a little bit about myself and about how I ended up talking about birds. So as she said, I do live on the east coast of Canada. I'm in Nova Scotia right now. I have lived on the west coast and somewhere around the middle. And I did spend a little over 10 years living and working and traveling around the world. I saw some people in the comments saying they were from Peru. I spent an incredible month in Peru, so I'm very happy to see you here. And through that, I was able to visit all 7 continents, and I've lived on 4. So I've lived in North America, in Europe, I lived in Ireland, I lived in New Zealand, and I lived in Japan. And I have always loved animals. I was very lucky when I was younger. I worked at an aquarium and I also worked at a zoo. And when I was traveling, the animals that were around me were very exciting, but they were just sort of there. I wasn't super interested in birds at that stage. And when I finished traveling and I moved here to the East Coast, one of the things I wanted to do was learn how to draw. A lot of people, when they were children, they have a lot of artists, creative hobbies that we sort of let go when we get older. And for me, I wanted to pick all those back up. So I learned how to sew and I learned how to knit and I learned how to draw and paint. And so I started drawing and posting on Instagram. And posting it online for me was like having it as a homework assignment, and it forced me to do it. So I gave myself a goal, 100 days. I would draw every day for 100 days and post it online. And that made me do it, as opposed to that's that thing I'll get to when I'm done the laundry or I'm done this. And that 100 days, I started that in 2017. I'm still drawing. So it worked. So it definitely became my favorite creative outlet, and something I looked forward to at the end of every day to draw something and share that. So I had started drawing and painting. And then when the first COVID lockdown happened, I bought an iPad because I couldn't get out and I couldn't get to the art supply store. So I taught myself how to draw digitally and to do small animations. And so I had been drawing and posting that, just whatever was inspiring me at the time. And my mother, as mentioned earlier, the thing is sort of the starting point of all of this, because my mother loves birds, and she really, in particular, loves the northern cardinal. It's her favorite. It's all over her house. And where she lives, they're not very common. It's a very rare sighting for her to see them. But for me, they're in my backyard. I would see them all the time. So when your mother has a favorite bird, you make sure to notice them and to take photos of them when you can and to share those with her. And so she was visiting me one day, and there was a bird singing in a tree, and her whole body went on alert, and she spun around because she knew it was a cardinal. And she was so excited, and she found it in the tree. And I watched her doing that, and I realized I did not know that was a cardinal. I did not know that that sound that that bird was making came from a cardinal. And so I made it my mission to learn what a cardinal sounded like so I could tell my mother, because it made her so happy to know that that bird was there. The only way I knew how to do that was to learn all the birds in my neighborhood. So I started listening to all the birds that were in my neighborhood, and I found this wonderful app. I'm sure a lot of you know it. It's called the Merlin Bird ID. And it's an app on your phone. It's my favorite piece of technology, and it has a sound recorder. And so you can have it listen to the bird sound around you, and knowing where you are geographically, it can tell you what bird that you're listening to. So I would walk to work with my phone out, listening to all the birds and identifying them. And I still use it to this day. It's an incredibly useful tool. But I wanted to know the bird without getting my phone out. I couldn't always get, sometimes the bird would sing and then shut up, and then I couldn't hear it again. I couldn't record it. And I wanted to know, the way I watched my mother know in her bones that that was a cardinal, I wanted that same feeling. So the only way for me to do that was to remember the bird sounds. And there's something in my brain that really likes to label things. It likes to categorize things and put them in little boxes. So when I would hear the different birds in my neighborhood, my brain would try to go through all the sounds that I already knew in life and be like, what does that sound like, that you can attach to that to remember it? So I would hear a grackle, and I'm like, that sounds like a metallic sneeze. Or I would hear the sound of a truck backing up, the beeps, and like, that's a red-breasted nuthatch. And so I made these little connections to these sounds. And the northern cardinal, it's an emergency siren. I could almost see the red light spinning around. And so I started making these little connections so that that's how, when I heard that sound, I would know it's that bird. So after I had about a dozen birds in my neighborhood sort of locked down, with my drawing that I had already been doing online, I made a little cartoon comic strip, if you will. If it sounds like X, it's Y. If it sounds like this, it's that bird. And I posted it online. And up until then, I hadn't done anything with words or voiceover or animation. I'd just been drawing sort of static images. And at the time, I had 800 followers on Instagram. So if I got 50 views on a post, I was throwing myself a party. That was an exciting day. That first post with the cardinal got 175,000 views. And a few days later, I did another one with other birds in my neighborhood, and I got 200,000 views. And later that week, my third one got 1 million views online. And I knew very quickly, I was like, okay, I've hit on something. I have found something that people are resonating with, that they are enjoying, that they're learning from, that's silly and funny, and they're connecting to. And that was June 2023. And I have done nothing but bird content since then. That's all that I do. I've built this incredibly wonderful community of people online. I'm on Instagram, on TikTok. I have 440,000 followers just on my silly bird content, because people, they either don't really care about birds, they just find it incredibly funny, or they super love birds and they don't get a lot of funny, lighthearted content about birds. So it's a good mix of those things. And so a year after making all these videos, my publisher, Story Publishing, reached out to me and said, we think that you have enough here that you could turn this into a book, that you could expand on this idea, this content you have. And that's how Bird Talk came to be. So I wrote and illustrated the book. It features 101 birds from around the world. So there's a lot of North American birds, but then based on me and my travels, I picked birds from New Zealand and Australia and South Africa and Alaska. And then I always look for the more unique sounding birds because I think they're the funnest to get a hold of, or the birds that I would really like to see. We were talking about sandhill cranes earlier. I've never seen one in real life. I would love to. So those sounds that they're interesting to know, even if it's not a bird that I'm going to run into on my walk home. And so I wrote the book, and it came out this June, exactly 2 years after my first video. And it just expanded on some of the stuff that I was doing online, but I'm still doing that. I still love that. I'm still making that content. And I have a few pages here. I thought I could show people online who haven't seen them. I maybe read one or two so you could sort of get the idea behind it if you've never seen my content before. So I'm going to share my screen. So the concept of the book is broken into 10 chapters with themes. And so if it sounds like someone with a dry cough, it's a dusky grouse. Picture it. You're in the theater. Maybe it's a movie, maybe it's the ballet, maybe it's a one-woman show about the history of printer ink cartridges. I don't judge. But behind you and to the left is a person who can't stop clearing their throat. The kind of throat clearing that starts with a quiet hem and then into a loud series of back of the throat coughs. Now, if you're in the Rocky Mountains of Canada and the United States and your theater disruptor is a large brown bird with a reddish air sac on their neck, that could be a dusky grouse. Not sure which is worse, the throat clearing or them leaning over to their companion repeated questions about the plot. Who is that again? His brother? I thought he died. Some of the birds in the book are so well named that we name them after the sound that they make. So the northern bobwhite sounds like someone yelling Bob White. Or in Australia, if it sounds like a dog barking, it's a barking owl. So people have always been making these sound connections to birds, but sometimes they're not as clear. So the barred owl, if it sounds like someone yelling, "Who cooks for you?" it's a barred owl. The barred owl is one of the larger owl species and hides impeccably well within the trees that it lives around. The first time I saw one, I only noticed it because it flew from one tree to another. And when your eye catches something with a 3-foot wingspan flying in near perfect silence, it really kicks in your fight or flight response. They live in Canada or the United States, and more precisely in my backyard. Famously known for the 2-part call of "Who cooks for you? Who cooks for you all?" And out of politeness, I always yell back, "It's takeout." If it sounds like a rusty hinge, it's a blue jay, that 2-note sound of them making that sound of a hinge being moved back and forth. But that's only one of the sounds that the blue jay makes. And in this book, I'm only calling out one single sound or call from a bird, because as we know, blue jays make the famous J sound. They do an incredible impression of a hawk, but I could have a whole book just on corvids. So I needed to just pull one sound from each bird as sort of like a starting point to get us to hook in. Now, if it sounds like a chainsaw, it's a great blue heron. If you're out by the water and hear the deep sounds of a chainsaw revving up, it could be one of these majestic birds. They love a river, big fan of a marsh. Or it could be someone cutting down a tree. Be aware of your surroundings. If it's a great blue heron, you might want to think before complaining about the racket. These birds, found all across North America, are almost 5 feet tall. But if you ask them, they'll say it's 6. With a wingspan that could be over 6 feet, even with their incredible size, they only weigh about 7 pounds, but their dagger-like beak is nothing to be trifled with. This video about the black-capped chickadee is my most popular video I've ever put online. Between my two platforms, it has 11 million views. And a lot of people are telling me that they will never be able to hear the word cheeseburger without knowing that it's a chickadee for the rest of their lives. And even Wendy's, the fast food chain, used my video on their TikTok, replacing the bird singing cheeseburger when someone's trying to order at their restaurant. So it's definitely solidified that in. So if it sounds like it's saying cheeseburger, it's a black-capped chickadee. This bird has numerous calls and songs. Some sound like "Hey, sweetie," or "Phoebe," or when they use their own name, "Chickadee dee dee." The more D's you hear, the higher the threat, but probably not from you. They're really cool with humans. There are 7 different chickadee species. The black-capped can be found across Canada and the northern US. And in North America, they're called chickadees, but this species in other places is called tits. If you want to see the type of videos that I'm making around this content on Instagram and TikTok, I'm Girl in White Glasses, and my website is girlinwhiteglasses.com. And the book Bird Talk by Story Publishing is out from wherever your favorite book retailer. My goals with the content and with the book, I've always had 3 goals for this. Number 1, I wanted it to be funny. I wanted it to make you giggle and laugh and think it's silly, because for me, the world is very heavy and it feels heavier all the time. And if I can bring any kind of lightness or joy, then job done. Secondly, I do want it to help you identify birds by the sounds that they make. I want you to learn them. If the sounds that I say in the book, if they connect with you and you think that that bird is saying cheeseburger, and now you know what that sound is, that's great. But if it also just opens the door to a new way of thinking, that you can create your own mnemonics, that if there is a certain part from a song of your favorite band that sounds like a bird, that you can make that connection to help you remember it. And then lastly, sort of the underlining goal is that I want people to notice the birds that are around them. I want them to be interested in them and to realize the wildlife that is around us all the time. Birds very quickly become background noise. It's just sort of that soundtrack of our life. And there's a lot of birds that are really hard to see and they're really hard to hear. So I think if people became more interested and were looking for the birds that are around them, that's the first step to caring about nature and wildlife. And that's the next step to doing something to protect it.
Oh, thank you so much, Becca. Okay, so I have to tell you that you accomplished all of the goals with me. So
Excellent.
I'm super excited. And so I do a lot of bird walks with, in particular, children. That's kind of my thing that I really like a whole lot. And the bird sounds are so important to get them engaged. And I talk a lot about the namesayers. And so like the chickadee, when we hear the chickadee, that helps them. So spot on. Um, I I have to ask you first before we get into, and everybody who's returning to the Bird Book Club knows that I have lots of questions to ask you. But you all joining us tonight, put your questions or your thoughts or your comments into the chat, and we'll get to them. Let me know if you want to come on camera and ask them, or if you want me to. But first, before we get started talking about the birds and the questions that I have, tell us a little bit about the white glasses thing. I'm just really curious what's up with that. I love it. I love it. So how did that come about?
When I first started wearing glasses, I had about 6 different pairs, all different colors, and I would change them with my outfit. So I had red ones and blue ones and clear ones. And when I was buying them, they had a sort of buy one, get one sale. And as a joke, I ordered the white ones. And I thought that they would be very funny. And I didn't wear them for almost a year, because when I put them on, it felt like a cartoon. It felt too much. And then I wore them one day and I just really liked them and I got a lot of lovely compliments. And as my prescription has been getting worse, I've been buying less and less versions of glasses as they get more expensive. And I really stuck on the white one. And people, when they meet me in person for the real time, they find me across a crowded room really easy. I was featured on the local news, and I've had people down the street be like, "It's the bird lady." And if I didn't have the glasses, I don't know if they would make that connection. Like it's become sort of like my identifier outside of having a name. And now I'm stuck with them, and I can never have. I could. I mean, if I wanted to go, in disguise, I could put on a black pair, but I'm sort of stuck with them now.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that story. So as I was looking at your book, and I do have some stories of my own, of course, about some of these bird sounds, especially like the saw-whet owl, and the fish crow. But you have the book, and I don't know that I can actually share much of that with, camera doesn't really do a good job, but in your table of contents. And so many people coming on to the Bird Book Club may not have read the book or started to read it or have read it multiple times. And to let you all know, everybody that I've shared this book with in the last month have been like, oh my gosh, and they've gotten their own copy. And then multiple copies because they fit really nice in a nice stocking. Plus, they're books are really easy to wrap. So it's that time of year. So as you're thinking about gifts, this makes a perfect one. But how did you come up with a table of contents? Like, what was your defining factor for, and just so for folks that don't have the book in front of them, you've got like some of your basic birds. And in the second category, birds with suggestive names. And then you've got scavengers and predators, birds that love the water, etc. What made you come up with those categories?
So I started with this master list of birds that I wanted to feature. And not every bird gets a comparison. Some birds just sound like a beautiful singing bird. I can't find the goldfinch, I can't find a sound that fits that bird sound, for example. So we started with this huge list, and my publisher really liked 101. That was a good number. So I came up with 101 birds and their comparisons. And then we started trying to group them together so that it wouldn't just be a massive list of 100 birds. It's not the kind of book you pick up and you read in order. It's the kind you like open and like read that random page. So we wanted them to be sort of like digestible and like loosely themed. And I started trying to do them geographically, but birds don't pay attention to borders. So like the barn owl is on every continent but Antarctica. So like, where do you put them? It was too hard to like sort of narrow it down. So then I started coming up with themes. So like you said, bird that love the water. So those are birds that are either water birds or birds where their sound is a water effect, so it kind of like puts them together that way. It's just to give them a little bit of a theme. And then at the end of every one of these chapters is a longer, so there's one on the difference between crows versus raven, or there's something on nests, or on why we owe pigeons an apology, to kind of like break it up again. So it's just not like reading through a list of birds.
Yeah, I love that. And you're right. When I first picked up the book, I didn't go to the front to like read from front to back. I was like, oh, what birds does she have in here? Okay, so you got some cool things going on in this book, but I want to capture a few things that have been said in the chat. So Catherine says she's from Michigan, and whenever I hear the black-capped chickadee, the first thing that comes to mind with their sound is spring's here, which in the spring is a great reminder that better weather is coming. Hey, Catherine, I'm already feeling that way now, and it's just November. And so love the fact that you've set different ideas for the sounds that birds make. I'm an avid bird watcher and wildlife photographer, and taking pictures of birds is my passion.
I had not heard spring here. That's a new one for me. I like that.
Yeah, me too. And I'm going to remember it. So Jasmine, I just want to point out that Jasmine ordered a few copies of your book, and also your tarot cards are so cool.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. On
Tell
my
us what's up with that? What do you mean? I have to go out and get something new?
um so I make bird content online, and I would say 80% of what I do is the if it's X meets Y, but then I do a couple of other special features with birds. So in the month of December, I do a sort of Christmas advent of, instead of an elf on a shelf, it's a lark on a shark. it's all like bird related. And one of the things I did, I really like tarot cards. So I drew out, there's two parts to a tarot card, the major arcana and the minor, and they have like characters on them. So I drew out, I illustrated the major arcana with birds. So for each of the, so like the sun card is a goldfinch, and the like, so whatever the card was, I connected it to a bird and I illustrated those out. The goal is eventually I'll finish the whole deck and actually make a deck of cards.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay, so that one of the things that I wanted to point out, and Monique, I'm going to get to your questions, so don't go away. Um, your bird zodiac. Oh my gosh, how cool is that? So right away, I'm looking at me. Of course, it's always all about me. Um, I was born in April 20th, and so I'm on the cusp. I'm an Aries and a Taurus, and when I like read my horoscope in the paper, I pick out whichever one is the one that I like the most, and I go with that. And so as I was reading these, I'm like, wait a minute, no filter and get bored easily. And I'm like, oh my God, is that really me? And so Taurus is passionate and grounded in nature. And I'm like, of course, that is me. But how in the heck did you, where, tell us about this whole, so, and again, I wish I could show the page, but she's got these, you know, signs with the different birds assigned to them. You guys are just going to have to get your own copy. But tell us a little bit about your thought process with that. And we will get to you, Monique.
And yeah, that also started because I had done the tarot cards. And in that process, I had been trying to match a bird to the symbolism and the meaning behind each of the cards. But horoscope is definitely much more known than tarot. And so with the book, I wanted to have something along that as well, something that people could make their own. So I looked at the sort of characteristics of each of the signs, and then I was like, well, what bird fits those? So I'm also Aries, so we are the cardinal, we're the emergency siren, and so I tried to find birds that sort of match that, because there are a bunch online. There are so many versions of that. What vegetable you are if you're a Taurus, or what Taylor Swift song if you're an Aquarius. Like there's a whole bunch of these. I hadn't seen any bird ones, so I thought that I just try to put birds anywhere I can.
I love it. And you do such a great job of it. And so this might be a hard question for you, but Monique is asking, what is your favorite bird sound and why?
How about what is my favorite bird sound today? Can I do that? I don't know if I can pick one. Uh, I really, really love the hermit thrush. It sounds like wind chimes. And there was one in my parents' backyard, and I sat outside and just listened to him for an hour. Just this like beautiful twinkling melodic sound in the tree. I never saw him. And like we had binoculars, we were looking everywhere, but it was just like this magical sound. So I would say today that's my favorite.
Love it. Okay, so Monique, now that she's asked what your favorite bird is, wants to know Scorpio bird. And you want to share what it is with her?
Oh yeah, are we gonna go through them?
Yeah, yeah. So just because people are really curious about their bird
Yep.
now that we're diving into that. So
I'll do a quick roundup.
yeah,
So
yeah.
for Aries, you're a northern cardinal because you're feisty and energetic. Taurus, passionate, grounded in nature. So you are a ruby-throated hummingbird. Geminis are raven because you're clever and curious. Cancer, you're loyal and sentimental. So you are a snow goose. Leo is the lion. They're confident and fun, charismatic. So you are a scarlet macaw. Virgo are clever and love a routine, and you are a king penguin. Libra, cool and magnetic. You are a flamingo. Scorpio, passionate, brave, resourceful. You are a golden eagle. Sagittarius, spontaneous, energetic, and bold, is a pileated woodpecker. Capricorn, consistent, fearless, an osprey. Aquarius, which is intellectual but also aloof and unpredictable, is a toko toucan, and Pisces, who is the romantic, is a bird who mates for life. So you're a mute swan.
Oh, I love those. Thank you so much for sharing them. And they're just so fun. So, as I was reading this book, of course, I couldn't help be like, oh, wow, I never associated that sound with that bird. But now that I have, I'm very keen to, I'm a fair weather bird walker. I mean, if it's like rainy or cold or
Mm-hmm.
icky, I really don't go out. And unless I have to take a group out and then I'm already committed, so then I have to go. And I lived for large years. I lived for a number of years. I lived a long time in Alaska, and you just had to dress for the weather. And now that I've moved, I'm just like, nah, not doing it anymore. But at any rate, I can't wait to go out and listen to some of these birds. And so you have assigned some sounds that I hadn't really associated with some of these birds, like the fish crow. You said, I said no. And that is just so nah, nah,
Yeah.
of the fish crow. And I use that when I give talks, especially to kids, when we're talking about bird sounds. And I just cannot wait to use this with my next group of kids. I'm so super excited. Um, but I often will say, this is the fish crow. Think of the fish crow when your mom tells you to clean your room. Nuh-uh. And think of the fish crow when your teacher says, oh, time to do your homework. Nuh-uh.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have a couple comments in the chat. So from Barry, I want to say, the belted kingfisher, my favorite, and one I usually hear before I see. Is the belted kingfisher featured in your book? Curious to know what sound you associate with it.
No, I have the green kingfisher in the book, and that is a pen clicking, like someone repeatedly clicking on the back of a pen. But I'll have to, I haven't done the belted kingfisher. I'm going to write that down. I'll see if I can do that one.
You just,
Also, I lived in Alaska. Don't you love it? I loved it so much.
yes, I could move back there. So
Agreed.
where were you in Alaska?
I actually worked on a small cruise ship for many years, going between Vancouver, up and down, up and down, and up and down.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I was in Anchorage and then Juneau.
Mm.
Juneau was very soggy. I always just felt like I was wet all the time.
Yeah.
And talk about cruise ships, they were there so regularly. Um, so in the and I just want to say Monique says that this is very interesting overall, and she likes On Shelf Too, likes the world on Shelf Too. I think
Oh, my globe.
yeah. Oh, got it. Good. Good. One of us is paying attention. The
I
globe.
love
Thank you.
globes. I pick them up at thrift stores all the time. I can't help it.
That's great. So, on and for those of you that have the book in front of you, on page 14 is the robin, and the robin. You say it sounds like you were being catcalled, and that's a sexy accent. And I never actually thought about that. When you have your blue jay, and like you said, birds make so many different sounds, and the blue jay can sometimes be a mimicker.
Mm.
And when I was working in Clearwater, Florida at a nature center, I was walking down the pathway from one building to through the woods to another, and I heard a wolf whistle. And I'm like, I tried not to turn around and look. I was like, oh my gosh, somebody's wolf whistling? What is that? And I walked a little bit more, and I'm like, oh, I hear a wolf whistle. Oh, this is kind of embarrassing. And I'm like, I didn't really want to look. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to have to figure out what's going on, because is it like somebody teasing me, or, am I being harassed, or what's going on? And I turn and I look, and there's a blue jay, and it's wolf whistling at me. and it was just imitating. I don't know how that happened or where it came from or why it was doing that. But when I was on page 14 in your American Robin and you were talking about sexy, I just did not get that. So when you
The
came up with these kind of sounds, how did you reach that?
the robin it's one of my neighborhood birds. And most birds, when they're singing, they sing a whole song, like a melody. But to me, the robin sings and then there's a pause, and then they sing and then there's a pause. And so it's like these little tiny short, and all I kept hearing was someone being like, "Hey, hey, lady, hey, you look good. Hey," like it was like these short little breaks, like yell, pause, yell, pause, yell, pause. And that's how I could tell that bird versus another bird that was singing. And there is a wolf whistle in the book. It's the upland sandpiper, and he does a perfect, almost cartoon wolf whistle. But I've heard a blue jay do an excellent hawk impression in front of me, as like posturing, like get out of here, like there's a hawk, run for it, because they're incredibly clever.
Yes. Yes, they're so fun. And Monique was just saying that the red-shouldered hawk is mimicked by the blue jay.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, it fools me frequently. I'll hear that and I'm like, oh, where's the hawk? And then I'm like, ah, it's a blue
Yeah.
jay. So you also, as you were introducing your book to us, and I'm just in love, Becca. I'm just in
Thank
love
you.
with this book. And you know what I really want to do is, and maybe you're already doing this, I want to take little bits, little pictures from your book and like frame them and put them in different places because I just think they're so fun. But you mentioned earlier when you were explaining your book that there was a bird, and I'm sorry, I can't remember which one it was, that sounded like a truck or a
Red-breasted nuthatch.
red-breasted nuthatch.
Yeah.
So see, I never would have associated with that. I always think of, kind of that anky, but as you said, they have a lot of different sounds. But you know what sounds like a truck backing up to me is the saw-whet owl.
Oh, I can hear that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I have to say that I was in a forest in Indiana and we were doing saw-whet owl banding. And so in the middle of the night, I'm driving my car through the forest and I hear this, what sounds like a backup hoe, coming. And I'm like, what in the world is a backup hoe doing in the middle of the woods in the middle of the night? And then I'm like, oh, it's the saw-whet owl sound.
Yeah. I have them as a book as someone learning to play the recorder. So if you've
Yeah.
ever had to have a small child just like blowing that one note over and over again, we have a wildlife rescue here, and they have a couple of saw-whet owls that can't be released that they use for educational purposes. And I don't know, maybe I just didn't know enough, but to me, owls are a certain size. These little tiny, gorgeous little things, they're just the cutest thing I've ever seen.
They are. And the first time I went banding, the guy said, oh, you're going to go, oh, they're so cute. And I'm like, I'm a professional bander. I'm not going to do that. Sure enough, I'm holding it in my hand and I go, oh,
They're like made by Disney or something. They're so cute.
yeah, they're adorable. Um, so Monique is asking, is the ground dove in your book?
No, the mourning dove is.
And so the mourning dove, when I was growing up, when I was little, it always sounded like an owl to me.
That's I mentioned that in the book, and it's one of my more popular videos online, where I go through a bunch of different owls, and then at the end the joke is, or it could be a dove. And the amount of people in my comments that are like, wait a minute, I've heard that my whole life, and I'm like, there's owls in my neighborhood, and I'm like, no, there isn't any here in the city. That is a dove. Also, so
Yep.
many people think it's morning, like morning dove, afternoon dove, evening dove. They don't know that it's like I'm mournful, I'm in mourning. So it's learning, teaching people that one is new.
Yeah, and so that would probably help them with the sound also to
Yeah.
make that
It'll
connection to
sound
the sound.
mournful. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. And so I the one of the birds that you have, when I saw it, I was like, oh wow, that actually you can probably even see that one. Um,
Ovenbird.
the ovenbird, Yeah, so the ovenbird, and I don't know how many of you have seen the ovenbird. It's not something that you see, or at least I don't see it frequently. I have to go into the woods and I have to really look for it. But tell us, can you, I mean, how did you come up with that? Are you watching mommy, 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 mommy?
The avant-garde, a lot of times people say it sounds like saying teacher, like teacher, 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 teacher. But the way that it says those two notes and they get louder and louder and louder, to me, it pictured a small child whose mother is having an adult conversation and the kid is going, mommy, 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 just repeatedly trying to get their attention. And so when I hear that escalation of those notes, that was what I thought of with the Ovenbird.
I love it. Now, Becca, I mean, for me, I find that unless I hear the bird like regularly and think about it regularly and hear it a lot, I kind of have to learn the bird sounds every spring. Is that just me or is that a thing?
No, I mean, I wrote the book almost a year ago. I'd probably have to like look some of them up at this point if they're not birds that are known to me.
Hmm.
But to find the sound for me, it's usually very quick. As soon as I hear the bird sound a couple of times, my brain is like, there it is. And it just like label, 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 label. And the weirder I make the label, the more it sticks. So, one that was after the book was published is a gadwall duck, and it makes a very unique quacking sound. And when I first heard it, my brain was like, that sounds like the start of a very specific Beastie Boys song, Intergalactic. And I thought, no one's going to get that. No one's going to get that reference. That's not going to be something that goes on. And I posted it online with almost like an apology, like, I'm sorry, this was like super left field. A million views. People are like, yep, that sounds exactly like that song. And so, because it's so specific and weird, people that have no idea what a gadwall is are like, oh, that's the Beastie Boys bird. They'll make that connection very much.
Well, some people might make the Beastie Boy thing. I'm like, whoop.
That's what I'm saying. The more specific to you, like if you have a cupboard in your kitchen that has a certain squeak that like reminds you of a particular bird, that's the mnemonic you should remember.
Yeah, I love it. And so, when you mentioned like the barred owl, who cooks for you, who cooks for you all, and it was so funny. You said takeout, and I'm like, I do.
And
And
maybe
so
that
that's always
takeout
what.
joke is the thing that helps you remember that he's asking who
Yep.
cooks for you. Like these little like silly add-ons are maybe the thing that makes it memorable.
Yeah. So do you ever like when you're out, you've written such a great book, and I do want to address that folks are asking, where can I find the book? And so Lauren posted that it can really be found anywhere that you purchase books. And we always like to encourage you to go to your local bookstore, buy the book locally. And if they don't have it, let them know that you're interested in it, and they can most of the time order it for you. And then also you can buy a copy and donate it to your library if you want, or ask your library to buy a couple copies so that it's available.
I'll also
But
say
when,
that my publisher, Story Publishing, there's a link on my website to buy it directly from the publisher. They have a Black Friday 30% off all books from the publisher right now. So you can get it for under $12.
woo, right, I love it. Um, when I think one of the things that I want to do is kind of write out. I'm a very visual learner. So I want to write out like the new things that I've discovered after reading your book. And like, here's what it sounds like. But some of these, I'm like, I don't know what that sounds like. Like you've got the Gunnison sage grouse.
Mm-hmm.
You says that it sounds like wiggling a piece of aluminum siding in the air. Okay, what did you do? Go out in your yard and wiggle a piece of aluminum siding?
It's a really old technique that they used to do in radio plays to make thunder. They would shake that piece of metal, that wobble, 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 wobble
Oh
back and
yeah,
forth.
yeah, yeah.
That's what they sound like.
Okay, okay, all right. So that's
uh,
not
yeah.
too off the mark. All right.
At the back of the book, I have a page of references. which has got a bunch of wonderful organizations that have sound databases. If you're looking for a place to look those up, a lot of the in the book are a lot of them are videos on my Instagram and TikTok. If you want to hear the sound that I put in there as well to like get a better idea of the specific sound that I'm talking about. And a lot of people told me that a friend of mine, her two kids, they go through and they find a bird and then they go online and they look up the bird and they listen to the sound and they learn about the bird. She's like, I'm using it like a homeschooling. I'm like, that's great. I think more people should be looking up birds online.
That is great. What a great idea. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Now I have a Canadian question for you, eh?
Yep.
So, sorry, couldn't resist. I married a Canadian, and when he moved to the States with me, he started saying, huh. And I'm like, oh my God, please don't do that. But on page 126, you have a Canada Jay. And if it sounds like a whimpering dog, can it? But in the cartoon, you have a can I please have some of your poutine? Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess my Canadian husband taught me well. Okay, for the sake of all of us that are not Canadian, what is that?
So poutine or poutine is one of our national dishes, if you will. It started in Quebec, and it's French fries with gravy and cheese curds. So it has to be curds, like good Wisconsin cheese curds, squeaky curds. And it at some places in the States might have something called disco fries that you mean, which I think is like shredded mozzarella. That's not it. It's got to be cheese curds. We fries and gravy is a real popular thing in Canada. We're like fries and gravy, fries and vinegar instead of like ketchup. And so the additive cheese just makes it incredibly decadent. But it's basically like Canadian street food. Like you would have that at the end of a night out, you know, like it's you're not going to a fancy restaurant for poutine. It's very much like fast food stuff, and it's really good.
I love that. When I was in Colombia with the Bird City group with Environment for the Americas and American Bird Conservancy, we went to a restaurant and they had a dish that they served that was kind of like they're at the end of the night, you know, after you've been out partying. And it was bread, cheese, and chocolate milk, really thick and interesting. And I'm like, I don't think I'll ever eat this again. But the fries with the cheese and gravy, I actually like that a lot. So a lot of fun. And
Yeah.
then Monique was saying that there's a place in Disney Springs that sells it in Orlando. And Monique had also asked where I worked in Florida, and I was in Clearwater at the Moccasin Lake Nature Center, city owned Moccasin Lake Nature Center off of Highway 19, which you take your life in your hands when you drive that highway. And it's across from where the baseball folks practice every winter. They come down from Canada as well as other
Dunedin.
places and practice playing baseball there. And it's right across the street from Moccasin Lake. And we are running out of time, Becca. I'm so sorry that we have to end this evening, but thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you for sharing this really fun book. And um, like I said, I am super excited to be able to share it with lots of people and use it on my bird walks. And I actually want to make some like cards with them. And so you had mentioned, I think you mentioned the identifier earlier, and in the old days, that's what we had. You know, it had a little card that you would put, and you could push the button, and it would sound off. That was before Merlin came about,
Yeah.
and I could see me taking some of these cards, making these cards, and handing them out to the kids and saying, "Who has the chickadee card? What does the chickadee say?" You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, like
So
flashcards.
yes, I am
Yeah.
super, thank you, at a loss for words. I am super excited that you created this book and that you're thinking about doing more. And I am just super, super, super excited that everybody joined us this evening. And we hope to have you back again when you do more books.
I'd love to. This was wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Please join us for the next Environment for the Americas Bird Book Club. You don't have to read the book beforehand, but you certainly are welcome to. And then you now know where you can purchase this book. And at some point, I'll take my little sticky notes out of it. Thank you, Lauren, for doing the behind the scenes things and organizing everything. And I'd say one last thing about one of the birds you had in your book. You have a green catbird in your book. And so for most of us, it's probably the gray catbird that you're hearing, and it sounds like a cat. Meow. Keep your cats indoors.
Yes.
Where they belong, so that we can continue to hear all these fabulous bird songs. Right. Thank you so much, Becca. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your evening and a good night.